Boom, there we go. Helps when you plug it in. Works a lot better that way. Okay, so I got that there. There we go. There we go. That'll help. Yes. Well, no. I cut my beard. I trimmed it. I didn't do a very good job, but I I did trim it. What am I doing here? I'm gonna close that. Should have got it. Water. Um. Yep. Stand by. How is Carl doing? Better. His wife gave an update about a week ago that he was headed home. Gave a story about how um, he was having some kind of trouble with his truck, and they stopped somewhere up near Canton, and they noticed the hospital band. Asked him what he'd been in the hospital for, and they fixed his truck free of charge. She said he'd done that a lot for people and had bought parts for him. And I've seen that so much. That's a good segue to where I wanted to start because over the last what has it been 4 or 5 days, we have absolutely seen humanity and the market at work. It's been incredible. Now, of course, you can't see this anywhere but TikTok. Um, I mean, there's a little bit on Instagram. There's hardly nothing on Facebook. The TikTok, um, I mean, it's just incredible. One, the destruction in Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee is just almost unfathomable. But how people have just gone to work and have started moving and shaking. And um, Cletus McFarland said the other day there was 35 or 37 private helicopters showed up in, I guess, Hickory and Statesville, and they just showed up and like, well, send me. Greg Biffle had one. NASCAR driver Greg Biffle had a Facebook post and Instagram, and he had it basically had like a dot on a map, and it said, "If your family's here, they got my attention by shining a mirror against the sun to shine up at him and get his attention, and he took the helicopter down and was able to give them supplies." Asheville is starting to kind of wake up. Their cell service is coming back. Some people are getting power. Of course, it's kind of a major metro area. So the infrastructure is going to be a little easier to get rolling there. Um, but wow, just wow. And I really, really, really encourage you to go Google the phrase Walmart to the rescue. There was a fantastic paper written in 2006 about the response to Katrina, and there was a parish constable at that time who said, "quote If if the federal government had shown up here the way Walmart did, we wouldn't be in this mess. And it details, so it's an academic paper, and it details how Walmart had a meeting. So Katrina hit on like a Friday, I think, Friday or Saturday. And of course, now in this case, the feds actually were going, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, you need to get out. Some people did. Some people couldn't. Walmart had a meeting the day or two before the storm was to hit and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Because of the data that they have available through their computers, they know what those people use. They know their medicines. They know kind of toilet paper they use. Like, they know everything. And so they loaded up the trucks and they staged them just outside the area. And as soon as the storm blew through, here come the Walmart trucks. One interesting thing, and it really contrasts, well, it parallels what we're dealing with now, the reports that are coming out from people, is Walmart sent out a directive to their store managers that said, look, you're not going to be able to reach us and get permission, advice. You're just going to have to do the best you can. So do whatever it takes. And so there was a story of a Walmart store manager there somewhere in the deepest part whose store had been flooded. And she paid a dude to take a bulldozer and run through the side of that building and took all the drugs out of the pharmacy and took them out in the parking lot and helped set up a triage and just said, here, take it. Had she been someone who works for FEMA and behaved that way, they'd put her in jail. Because we're seeing it. No, don't come. Don't send. Only let the donations go through us. These narcissistic fucking psychopaths are so concerned about being in charge. What the hell do you think would have happened if Cletus McFarland would have asked for permission? Or Greg Biffle asked for permission? Or the other 35 private helicopter owners? Oh, I guess we're going to have to wait. No, they didn't wait. They went to work. Cletus at one point said that he had burned 5 tanks of fuel. By my estimation, that's about $2,000. And they just ran into people. One lady, I'm trying to think of what it was called, Hope Mill Fund. Just some random woman that said, "Hey, here, she's gathering and they're coordinating." See, that's the beautiful, spontaneous action of the market. That's spontaneous action. You don't have to have a top-down answer for everything. Sometimes, if you'll just get the hell out of the way, people will get things done. Now, they're going to have to rebuild I-40. That's going to take some serious engineering. They're going to have to rebuild I-26. That's going to take some serious engineering, some real expertise. Okay, but to put some jugs of water in a helicopter and say, go drop it over there, that doesn't take a great deal of brain power or planning. Now, I'll say this, and look, I don't know jack shit about flying a helicopter except what I've learned from the Cletus McFarland YouTube channel of watching them prepare this helicopter. You talk about, good God, heroic. From what little I understand about how flying a helicopter works, which seems to be a very complicated operation, these guys flying down into these areas was incredibly dangerous and incredibly risky and took an incredible amount of skill because they can't get a Chinook, big military helicopter, into these areas because you got mountains, you got power lines. And so Cletus has an MD-500, hilariously, that was rescued, found abandoned in Venezuela, and shipped here. It's a fascinating story. He named it Consuela. And literally just like 2 weeks ago, they put the final finishing touches on this, and they had to rebuild the whole thing. The engines and the rotors and the thing and the doo-waddle and the thingamajig and the their whirly doos, everything was replaced. Whole new interior. This thing is brand new. Probably ain't got 20 hours on it, and he's flying rescue missions. You know, it's just crazy. He put a video up on his YouTube channel. But I mean, you talk about balls of steel that these guys had to have to fly. I mean, that's got to be $1 million helicopter. It's got to be, right? And there was a whole bunch of them. So, absolute hats off to all these private pilots, people that are just, I mean, there are people on mules, there are people on four wheelers, there are people on tractors and bull. I mean, there was one shot I saw of like 50 dump trucks lined up. And one old girl was raising hell because they had 50 or so, 50 or 100 dump trucks heading west. And one of them got pulled over by a damn DOT officer. Hey, buddy, read the room. Read the room. Fucking DOT inspection on a truck trying to go. God. I'll tell you who's not there helping. 45,000 longshoremen. They're not there. Because that Guido-looking motherfucker, Harold Daggett, Mr. $900,000 a year with a 75-foot yacht that he may or may not have just sold, saying, I will cripple you. I will cripple you. There are a lot of people in this country right now suffering the worst humanitarian crisis in 20 years, since Katrina. And this bald-head Guido mobster son of a bitch is going to get proudly on the television and tell everybody, I will cripple you. I will put everybody out of business. I'm going to kill the construction workers and the steel workers. Everybody's going out of business because we need a pay raise and we don't want automation. You selfish, narcissistic son of a bitch. What a piece of shit. I mean, dude, read the room, y'all. Oh, well, actually, I mean, we didn't have any control over it. Our contract was ending then, and we didn't have a choice. Oh, you've always got a choice, sweetheart. You've always got a choice, cupcake. You have a choice. You know who didn't have a choice? You want to talk about who didn't have a choice? People that got 20 to 30 inches of rain dumped on them and everything washed away. They didn't have a choice. But you had a choice. You had a choice to say, yeah, maybe this isn't the best time for us to threaten economic collapse and be so smug about it. I mean, hate is a strong word, and I reserve it for people that really deserve it. But boy, that guy. I've never been in a union. I ain't going to be in a union. I'm more than capable of representing myself in the marketplace and have done so. But there's unbelievable suffering. Okay. Now let's talk about what Guido was talking about in his little rant about how he's going to shut down everything from China. Hey, good fella. Chinese freight comes into the West Coast ports. The East Coast ports are not deep enough to handle the big ships. Because, see, they were going to try that during COVID when in 2020, when all the ships were sitting out in the ocean and couldn't get offloaded because of the backlog. Oh, we'll just bring them over here. They don't fit. So you can't take those big ships from the West Coast to the East Coast because the ports aren't deep enough. Now they're working on retrofitting and yada, yada, yada. But wow, just what an asshole. And if you defend him, you're an asshole. Because listen, can't they unload it in Mexico and send the containers into the U.S. by rail? Well, they wouldn't have to, because nothing's going to happen with the West Coast ports. And I mean, listen, it's a little difficult, but there is a thing called the Panama Canal where they can just go down and back up and unload in the West Coast. You think the shippers are just going to let the whatever you call them, mariners, ship engineers, captain? Oh, what was the guy on the love boat? Captain Steubing. You reckon old Captain Steubing's just going to sit out there with his thumb up his ass and do nothing? Well, if they shut down the East Coast ports, I guess I'll go down through the Panama Canal, come up the other side, and unload out west. That's good news for trucking, by the way. I just, I don't have an issue with negotiation. I don't have negotiate. Do what you want to do. But when you act that way and you have this overinflated sense of self, y'all, they're truck drivers and crane operators. It, these are not brain surgeons. They're just they pull levers and hold steering wheels. And it would be one thing, but this guy, man, I'm telling you, this guy has gotten under my skin in a way nobody else. When he says, "I'm going to cripple you," well, Hurricane Helene did a pretty good job of crippling some people. You arrogant, smug son of a bitch. I mean, I just sometimes I think I try to put myself in the shoes of someone else. Okay, before I met brokers, and have friends now that are brokers, I kind of okay. Well, what if I'm a broker or a Landstar? What if I was an agent? And then I got to meet some agents. I got to know the agents. I went to their office. I saw how they work. I can't imagine being in the shoes of the woman that watched her parents and her 7-year-old son being washed away and her left to survive. And then hear this guy, this terrorist. Because according to the Department of Homeland Security, he literally can be defined as a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. Anyone who uses, what was it, intimidation and coercion to try to sway the public or the government. He's a terrorist. Can you imagine if Putin said, "I will cripple you"? Can you imagine if Xi Jinping, the Chinese Communist Party, said, "I will cripple you"? Imagine what people's response would be. My gosh, they'd want the missile silos opened and the fighter jets fueled up. Much less if he actually did it. Imagine what would happen if Russia or another foreign country tried to put a blockade and shut down our ports on the East Coast from Maine to Texas. Can you imagine what people's response would be? But this guy gets on television and says it. And a bunch of people give him a hell yeah, brother. Yeah, buddy, you tell them. You tell them we're going to shut them down. We're going to make them suffer. Can you talk about the FEMA loads and their effects on rate? Dude, listen, I avoid FEMA loads like the plague. Um, that ship sailed 12 years ago. I never did any. The last time they were really hot was 2011, 2012. Um, I was at ATS still. And buddy, the pay was, I mean, it was $1,000 a day to just sit there. And then it was like another $2.50 a mile if you moved. And I mean, I knew some guys that would sit somewhere for and do nothing for a week and make like 7 grand. One of our trucks did an emergency load of water to Bluntville, Tennessee. Um, Picked it up Friday and delivered it Saturday on a flatbed, which was kind of weird, but whatever. It paid great. It's $3,200 for like 400 and some miles. So I mean, that was awesome. But I would never go looking for FEMA loads. Listen, right place, right time. You're in the area, but you're going into a war zone. I mean, it wasn't a FEMA load, but in 15 or 16, there were some terrible floods in southern West Virginia. Nowhere near as devastating as what's happened in Western North Carolina, but a similar kind of situation, just a lot of rain. And what happens when it rains at the top of the mountain? It goes down to the valley and floods. They didn't have anywhere near the devastation, but it was still bad. I mean, a lot of people got flooded. And so there's a mission, whatever called Mountain Mission in Charleston, and they had put out a Facebook post and they needed a tractor trailer. And I'm like, hey, I've got one of those. So I made some phone calls, called Landstar, got the okay. Dude loads me up with about 97,000 pounds of stuff. I wasn't gonna get anywhere near a scale, but I know because they loaded that sumbitch from the floor to the ceiling and from the nose to the doors. Um, it was heavy. Okay. It was real heavy. But anyway, I took it down there. I don't even remember the town, but somewhere down off of Sandstone Mountain, which you can imagine going down that was fun with about 112,000 pounds. Um, Down into this valley, and it was just, no power. Funny thing was they had this old, it was a grocery store that had been closed. And so they had decided to use this grocery store as like a staging area. And so there was 2 or 3 other trucks there, and I'm kind of waiting, and it's just dudes with pallet jacks, right? And there was this girl walked up, and she couldn't have been 5'2", 100 pounds soaking wet. She had the biggest pistol I ever seen with pink. What do you call them on the side of the grip? The Anyway, hot pink, like all over this, like 44. I mean, she looked like John Wayne, looked like 100-pound John Wayne, but she had this pistol hanging off her hip. I said, "It's kind of a big gun, ain't it?" She goes, "You reckon anybody's gonna fuck with me?" I said, "No, ma'am. I don't believe they will. I think you are well in charge of everything here, and I'll be over here out of your way." Um, but and of course, you go down there and there's just some random dude making hot dogs and hamburgers on a gas grill, because people got to eat. Um, but yet we see, and it happens every time something like this happens. Some dude out of the kindness of his heart will load up his smoker or his grill and go to one of these areas and be like, "Hey, I want to feed people. Do you have a permit? Have you talked to the health department?" "No, I haven't." "Shut the fuck up and get out of my way." Um, but the idea here with collective bargaining, okay, and you want to increase. Everybody wants to increase. There's nothing wrong with that. I'd like to do better. I'd like to make more money. I'd like to have better conditions. Whatever. Well, here's the problem with the attitude, and it comes down to attitude with these folks. My last research showed me that unions make up about 9 or 10% of the workforce. That means there's 90% is the rest of us. Okay. Well, what do the rest of us do? When I came to Larry in 2018, my CDL was the most valuable thing that I had. I had a Class A CDL, I had all the endorsements, I had experience. That defined my value in the marketplace. Now, today, 6 years later, my CDL is the least valuable thing that I have. It still has some value, but the knowledge and the skill that I have gained over the last 6 years is much more valuable than my CDL. I made a change. I changed me. I didn't go try to change the market. I didn't go try to change the companies. I didn't go try to change anybody. I changed me, which is really the only thing on this planet that I have any control of. 20 years of having a wife and kids told me that. I don't have control over another human on this planet. And so to do so with force, I wholly object to that. And I object to it when we're truckers, we're going to shut the road down. We're going to, you shut up. You're just as bad as he is. We're going to band together and slow roll around Indianapolis. And we're going to go drive circles around the Capitol and blow our horn and get a red hat. You're just as bad as he is because you're trying to use threats and intimidation and coercion to get what you want. Well, hey, sugar pie, that don't work. You're never going to endear yourselves to anyone by using threats, coercion, and intimidation, and I'll shut you down, and I'll kill your economy. And so I have zero sympathy for these people or their fearless leader. And I thought I couldn't hate anybody more than Sean O'Brien. But, buddy, this guy has taken that to a whole new level. You're not special. You know who's special? Cletus McFarland and Greg Biffle and all the unnamed and unknown and non-famous private rich people. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but you don't get to have a helicopter working at the Waffle House. That takes some serious wealth to own and operate a helicopter. Number one, they're not cheap to get. Number two, they're not cheap to operate. So when you see somebody that owns a private aircraft, they've got some serious money. You don't see them out here threatening people. No, they're just helping people of their own free will. I mean, again, Cletus told the story about how they planned on going to Iowa for an event, but they, the hurricane came and then people are like, we're dying. And him and his wife were like, okay, let's go get in our helicopter, our $1 million helicopter, and go fly into an unknown war zone. They end up finding a lady and a 4-month-old baby off of GPS coordinates, landed in the backyard. Almost wasn't able to land because the terrain was so rough. But people were spray painting LZs, landing zones, on the road to give, to try to give the helicopters a spot to land. I mean, thank God for TikTok, because we're going to be able to see all this. We're seeing it every day. The mules and the bulldozers and the ATVs and the side by sides and the 4-wheel drive pickup trucks and the skid steers. All privately owned. Yeah, the National Guard's there. And they've got some big equipment and they've got some soldiers and they're doing some stuff. But they're doing the minority of the work. The work is neighbors, helping neighbors. And in this business, you know who your neighbor is? Brokers, truck stop operators, shops. Those are your neighbors. See, when you allow this evil into your heart and into your mind, that you begin to dehumanize people just because, oh, well, they're brokers or they're truck drivers or they're union workers or they're in the South. I mean, all these people that are doing an end zone dance and cheering the hurricane because of how they voted, that they deserved to have their houses swept from their foundations. They deserve to have their farms buried, their animals killed, their family members wiped away. They deserved it because they voted for Trump. I don't know if y'all know that Asheville's probably one of the most liberal places on the East Coast. It's unfortunately, and it's showing us the evil, but fortunately, the good, the beautiful, will always outweigh the evil, and the bad guys will never win. So let's move on, shall we? Let's get to some financial reports. Now, if you've been with me before when we've done this, I've had some technical difficulties. And so, TikTok, I'm going to try to be better to y'all this time. I've got a different plan to put the numbers on the screen for y'all. So, by God, y'all better appreciate it. Thank me for my service. All right. So, I'm going to put the usual up on the screen for YouTube. And TikTok, I'm going to give y'all one at a time. Okay. So, there you go. Y'all should be able to see that. Hopefully, it's not all obscured, but this is the number one truck this week with the highest revenue that we're looking at. So on YouTube and Facebook, it's the top line here, truck 054. This is the one that hauled the emergency load of water. So let's begin. 1,508 loaded miles. And really, he was in the shop for 2 days. So the fact that he's number one is pretty impressive. Because I had his truck in my shop for 2 days. We were rebuilding the fifth wheel and fixing oil leaks, and he still came out number one. Okay. So 2,383 total miles. The gross revenue, $7,611. The net revenue, $5,217.98. Driver pay, $1,709.30. That's 25% of the line haul and accessorials. Payroll cost, $188.02. Fixed expenses, $112.55. Other expenses, $9.50. Fuel cost, $648.83. For a profit before maintenance of $2,169.23. His cost per mile before maintenance was $1.12. Now, caveat on this maintenance thing, we calculate that you should, if you're operating a truck, single truck, and I don't care if it's new or old, whatever, 25 cents a mile. Okay. So the cost per mile for everything except maintenance was $1.12. Gross rate per mile for that 2,383 miles was $3.19. The net rate per mile after Landstar contractual deductions, $2.19 a mile. So the net after maintenance was 82 cents. So everything's paid. We've saved 25 cents a mile for maintenance. The driver's been paid. The payroll cost is covered. The fuel has been paid. All the deductions from the settlement have been paid. We have a profit of $1,954.03. So if you add together the profit after maintenance and what the driver got paid was $1,709.30, you get a total week profit, taxable, $3,663.33. So what's that work out to be? my calculator. 3663 33 divided by 2683. That is a profit, including driver pay, of $1.36 a mile. Not bad for a 53-foot flatbed at okay, Mr. Two Left Feet. Let's talk about this. BS, no truck gets 14 mile gallon. That's true. When you're looking at a week, the numbers can be skewed because of when the guy gets fuel. Okay. So he got fuel on Saturday. My fuel cutoff is on Friday. So next week, when we look at these loads, we will probably see his fuel cost be a little bit higher than normal because this truck gets atrocious fuel mileage. So that is one of the caveats. And we've always said, and you've probably never been here before, but I'll tell you that when you look at it over a month, you get a much clearer picture. So yeah, the fuel cost this week on that truck was lower than it should be. Because you can see you can't see on TikTok, but on the others, the fuel costs for the 6 trucks that I studied, most of them are $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. Okay. So yes, his fuel cost was abnormally low this week, and it'll probably be abnormally high a little bit next week. But I present these numbers as they come off of the settlement. These are to the penny. All of these numbers come from 2 places: from the Landstar Card Activity Report that is released on Saturday, and the Landstar settlement that is released on Monday. This is to the penny. Now, I will do, and I did one last week. If you want to go back to, you'd like to go look at, it's on YouTube and Facebook. I did a report that included not only the month of September, but I included the whole 3rd quarter. I did these exact numbers for the whole month of September and also for July, August, and September for all of quarter 3. And you can go look at that on YouTube and Facebook. All right. So let's look at truck number 2. And I'll put that one up for you, TikTok, right now. Okay. So this is truck number 2. And these are ranked by that last column, that week profit plus driver pay. Okay. So truck number 2 did 2,602 miles loaded and empty. I got to get my cursor back over here. So we had $8,300 gross, $57,1035 net revenue, driver pay $1,887.25, payroll cost $207.60, fixed expenses $288.62, other expenses $15, fuel cost $929.72, profit before maintenance $1967.16, cost per mile before maintenance $1.28. So that's going to put him right in that 153 range, which we pretty much always said our cost was about $1.53. Gross rate per mile $3.19. Again, this is another flatbed. This is a 48-foot flatbed. The top truck was a 53-foot flatbed. Net rate per mile $2.19. Net after maintenance 67 cents. Profit after maintenance $17.31.66. And 3618.91 would be the combination of profit and driver pay. I mean, that top truck, let's just say we doubled the fuel cost. Dude still cleared $3,000, even if you doubled the fuel cost. All right. So TikTok, lost my cursor again. Let me put up truck number 3. Truck number 3, lost my cursor again. There it is. Okay. We got 2,504 loaded miles, 256 deadhead miles. So we had a total of 2,760 miles, $8,198.96 gross, $57.54.27, $1783.71 driver pay, $196.21 payroll cost. Payroll cost is just 11% of driver pay. That's all that is. And again, the reason I put this in here, okay, let me real quick. I'm going to look y'all in the face when I say this. The reason I have this driver pay thing in here. Number one, our drivers are paid that way. Okay. But if you're a single truck owner operator, you should also be paying yourself that way something. Now, maybe it doesn't have to be 25%. Maybe you get by with 20, but remember the KGB, I mean, the IRS requires a reasonable salary from you. Okay. So you could do this. And I'm going to tell you from experience that you should do this because you cannot allow yourself to be lured into thinking that all of that cash coming in every week, that $3,000 or $4,000 is yours. Because a bunch of it belongs to the IRS and a bunch of it belongs to maintenance. So if you'll put yourself on some kind of salary in an LLC with a subchapter S election, not only will you save a bunch of money in taxes, but it will create boundaries for you that you desperately need when you're new in business. It will create boundaries for you to set a practical home budget that does not let your household income rise with the level of cash flow that's coming in from your business. Okay. I'm living proof of this. That's how my business failed because we didn't save money. And the only way your business is going to survive is if you save money. All right. So let me go back to this. Put it back up here. And I'll put it back up here. Okay, where were we? We were probably talking about payroll costs. Fixed expenses, $263.62. Other expenses, $11.25. Fuel costs, $1,200.99. See, there you go. Now, this is a truck that gets really good fuel mileage. This is an '07 Columbia with a Detroit and a 10-speed, and it's always in the mid to high 7 mile per gallon. Profit before maintenance, $18.88.54. Cost per mile, $1.25. So if you add the maintenance, he's at $1.50, well within the parameters of where we should be. $2.97 gross rate per mile, $2.08 net rate per mile, net after maintenance, 58 cents. Profit after maintenance, $1,608.49. And a week profit plus driver pay, $33.92.20. Now, TikTok, y'all can't see this because of the formatting, but I'm going to talk about what the YouTube people can see. Okay. And what they can see is the other 3 trucks. So you guys can go look at this on YouTube and Facebook after we're done. The bottom 3 trucks in blue are vans. Okay. They did not do great this week, but one was off, transitioning. He's moved over, like the bottom guy. He's moved over to pulling a 48-foot Conestoga. That right now is on $13,500 for his first week, right? His load Monday, we had a great load. It was like $3,200 for one day. It canceled Monday morning, immediately replaced it with a better load, then then got 2 loads from the same agent that was almost 10 grand between the 2 of them, carried him through the weekend. So next week's report is going to be phenomenal because I have 2 trucks right now that between them are at $21,500 and one still has to book a load for Friday. So if he books, I mean, my gosh, if he books a $3,000 load for the weekend, they're going to be at almost $12,000 a piece. And Josh is in the comment section already counting the money because he owns that truck, both those trucks. So these ones at the bottom, the number 4 there, he had a full week, but it just wasn't a stellar week. But I mean, still cleared $2,000, off of a kind of shitty week, the bottom guy only worked. I mean, he only did like a load and a half. So Nicholas Harper's got a question on the YouTube. Let me see what this is. When Blue Ribbon files for taxes, do y'all report the gross income before Landstar earns their 35% of your income, or the income is reported as the net income? Well, I can only report what I receive. Okay. And so contractually, what we receive is the 65% of line haul, the accessorials and all that. So what we call that 1099 revenue. We call that to the truck revenue. So if you're looking at this chart, that net revenue, that's what is counted as income to the tractor. Now, these flatbed trailers, they're not company trailers, so they're making 8% on the line haul and a couple of accessorials. Okay, so well, hell, let me go over here on this other screen and I'll scroll over and I'll tell you what the top truck's trailer. The trailer made $546.98 off of that same freight. Yeah, and a trailer is going to make that about 500 a week. So a trailer stands to earn, about 25 grand a year. But there's not a lot to it, brakes, tires, wheel seals, lights. Um, if you're in the really specialized stuff, your trailer probably earn 35 or 40, but about 25 grand. But you just don't have a lot of cost there until somebody rips a DOT bumper off of it. And it's $250 to have it welded back on. Ask me how I know. Public service announcement. If somebody wants to be a good Samaritan and drag your ass out of the ditch, please don't hook the chain to the DOT bumper of the trailer. Hook it to the axle. Yeah, don't do that. DOT bumpers are not made for pulling like that. Now, maybe on those big van trailer, like on a van trailer where it's steel, but you still want to hook to the axle. You're better off just crawl under there, loop it around the axle over top of the DOT bumper, and let them yank all they want. But not from an aluminum DOT bumper because you will rip it straight off, as was happened today. So there's your financial report. We're getting ready to add. I mean, my gosh, I've got 5 trucks in line to get repaired. I got a couple that need engines. I just need an extra, I don't know, 6 hours in the day and 2 days in the week. But with the we've got 4 or 5 drivers in qualification right now. So if we can get to work and get these trucks done, we can go from 6 to maybe 11 or 12 running by the end of the year. What's your cost per gallon after Landstar's discount? Let me open a page here and I'll just log into my fuel gauges. And let's pick this truck. And I'm going to let's just go from January 1st to today. I bet it sucker ain't gonna let me share that, is it? Try this. Yeah, it will. Nope, hit the wrong button. Let me share this. Sorry, TikTok, you won't be able to see this. But this is one of our trucks from January 1st to today. 103,203 miles. Average cost per gallon, $3.14. So, right in there. We generally stay well below the national average. Like this week, it's 41 cents a mile for fuel. Any progress on a Lunatic 2.0 truck setup? Yes. We have 2 Cascadias in our fleet right now. We're getting ready to add a 17 ProStar. So that'll be my first experience with a ProStar. Phil drives a ProStar, is very happy with it. I think his is a 2015. This is a 17 with a Cummins, has a auto shift. Had a lot of problems. She didn't think it had a lot of problems, but boy, did it. We've gone through the whole suspension. We replaced the DPF filter. Diesel Force cleaned it. What else we do? New leaf springs, kingpins, shocks, torque rods, bushing bearings, torque boxes, brakes. I mean, it's spent an ass load of money on that truck. And it's got 600,000 miles on it, I think. But boy, she's driving straight now. So I'm just trying to get through the gauntlet of Landstar qualification. And some of y'all have been there. Some of y'all have lived that. You know what it's like. It sucks. So yeah. Any more questions? How long have we been going here? About 48 minutes. That's not too bad. Oh, I didn't see this. So back to how corrupt FEMA is. Local man here that never worked a day in his life was finally caught at the port selling tobacco to a Middle Eastern fellow, got 5 years house arrest during Katrina. Oh, well. How badly does a deer guard affect mile per gallon? Probably not much. William Drake, do you have to have CDL for what? What's your question? Landstar not like older trucks. No, I've got trucks from 99 to 18. Landstar will lease on any truck that has an electronic engine that an ELD can be connected to. So that's going to get you back to 94, 95. All it has to do is pass a DOT inspection and have an electronic engine that you can connect a ELD to drive hot shot. Is this what this talk? No, this talk is not about hot shot. This talk is about tractor trailers. We don't do hot shot. We do big trucks, dry vans, and flatbeds. Listen, hot shot is very, very risky. The trucks are not made to haul freight, just period. It's very, very, very risky. How easy is it to move up the platform ranks at Landstar? It's not really. All you have to do is do a good job. I'm gonna toot my own horn here, but I don't think there's probably anybody in the industry that has a better platform training program than we do. We have an experienced heavy haul and oversized guy, Phil Freese, and he's been there, done that. And so every time one of our platform people gets loaded, they have to send pictures of their securement and he corrects it. And so we start you out doing legal. We've had guys do a couple oversizes here and there. But platform by the numbers, platform's where to be because the money's awesome compared to van right now. Van sucks. You can still make a profit doing van, but you're just going to work harder. Does the payroll cost in a separate column help in an audit? My spreadsheets have the calculation included in total driver pay. I don't think it's going to matter. It's an expense, whatever. Well, I don't know that your payroll taxes are an expense, and that's what part of the payroll column is, because you have to pay that 7.65%. And then there are fees associated with the payroll company doing um, the payroll for you. That's tax deductible, but that's going to be just an itemized expense. I don't think you can write off your payroll taxes because taxation is theft perpetrated by a criminal gang. FB Star 222, would you be open to dispatching another BCO? I just got to Landstar. Yes. Go to blueribbonlogistics.com and click on BCO mentoring and fill out the form, and we'll get in touch. Larry says all payroll is deductible. So there you go. Rocky, anything good in the shop this week? No, because Kyle is drunk fishing, as I'm told, somewhere in Michigan. So there's no work in the shop this week. There's an engine swap happening up there, but our guys aren't doing it. Which reminds me, I got to get to work on that video that I've got to post tomorrow. Looking to get into some of the really big stuff like 7 axles plus. Well, you're going to start with 5. And do that for a while. And then, they've got a rating system. And, I mean, there's plenty of people there that will help you at Landstar. Other BCOs, platform drivers. But, it's as easily as you can ascend, you can also descend by doing something stupid. Relationships. I mean, I have friends now that, I know they, people talk about the secret freight and all that stuff. Well, that shit really exists. Nothing that we do. But they get phone calls about the double top secret stuff, where the freight bill's $90,000. It's out there. You're just not going to do that on day one, So, yeah, that's about it. Rocky says there have been several 6 to 7 axles parked in St. Augustine lately. Yeah, you do a lot of setting there. I mean, I think Phil's got an extendable 53-foot trailer. For a long time, he's wanted to buy like a 3-axle aluminum just so he could haul legal freight on it also. Because there's not always that big stuff to do. And that's where some of these super, super specialized trailers, you can't really just stick a legal load on it and go down the road. You gotta deadhead the thing 2,000 or 3,000 miles. So, all right. Well, I've given you all about an hour. That is your financial report for this week. It's instantly replayable as soon as we're done on YouTube and Facebook. So if you just came in and you want to see, you can go back on YouTube. Just search Blue Ribbon Logistics. You can find it there. BlueRibbonLogistics.com is the website. It has all the information about all of our different driver training programs, BCO mentoring. You can find out about our shop. We do MD alignments. We sell OPS, Pittsburgh Power, Max Mileage Catalyst, Diesel Force Cleaning, MD alignment. Everything is there at the website, BlueRibbonLogistics.com. So go check it out. And I'm probably going to download this and take a bunch of the most offensive parts and post them as shorts on TikTok and YouTube. So y'all be looking forward to that. And we will see y'all. Well, on YouTube, we should see you tomorrow night with a shop video. And we'll see everyone back Friday night at 8 o'clock for the podcast. And with that, I bid you good evening.